Life lesson 4. Not everyone needs to know what you're building while you're building it. The work doesn't need an audience to be real. It just needs you to show up for it every single day, even when no one is watching. The pivot that changed everything. In 2014, when I was 28 years old, a conversation in a hotel lobby changed the direction of groundwork completely. I was in Chicago for a small business conference. Not a major one, the kind where the badges are printed slightly wrong and the Wi-Fi password is written on a whiteboard. I was waiting for a panel to start when I got into a conversation with a woman named Diane, who ran a chain of mid-sized retail boutiques across the Midwest. She wasn't looking for a branding agency. She was frustrated, venting really to a stranger in a lobby about the impossibility of creating consistent brand experiences across multiple locations without paying an enormous agency an enormous amount of money for work that, in her words, never quite understood us anyway. I listened for 20 minutes. Then I said something I had never said out loud before. What if the solution isn't a bigger agency? What if it's a smarter system? Diane looked at me for a moment in the way people look at you when you've accidentally said the thing they'd been circling for months without landing on. We had coffee for 2 hours. I flew home with 6 pages of handwritten notes and a clarity of purpose that felt, in the best possible way, like a door blowing open. What Diane needed, what I realized was dozens of businesses needed, wasn't design and branding. It was a brand operations system, a structured, scalable framework that allowed businesses to maintain visual and voice consistency across every touch point, every platform, every location, without the ongoing cost of an agency retainer. Templates that weren't generic, guidelines that weren't bureaucratic, tools that actually fit the way real businesses operate. I spent 6 months building the pilot version. I brought Priya in as a full partner. We brought on a systems designer, a content strategist, and a developer who could build the digital infrastructure. We ran Diane's boutique group as our case study, refined the model through 18 iterations, and then, heart-pounding, knuckles white, we relaunched Groundwork not as a branding agency, but as a brand operations consultancy. Year 1 after the pivot, revenue tripled. Year 2, we were fielding calls from companies we had previously considered unreachable. Year 3, we opened a second office. Life lesson 5. Listen more than you speak. The pivots that change your life are almost always hiding inside someone else's frustration. The world is full of unsolved problems looking for people willing to pay attention. The reunion that no one expected. Ridgecrest High School's 15-year reunion was held on a Saturday in June at a hotel ballroom that smelled like carpet cleaner and old ambition. I almost didn't go. I had a launch the following Tuesday and approximately 400 things more deserving of my Saturday evening. My mother, with the authority that mothers maintain regardless of their child's age or net worth, told me I was going. "You'll regret it if you don't," she said, "and you'll regret it in a way that's boring. Go." I wore a dress that cost more than my mother's first car. I wore it not to be seen. I want to be careful here because this story is not about things or labels or any of that, but because I had spent so many years wearing what circumstances allowed, and I had arrived at a place where I could choose. The choosing itself felt significant. I walked into that ballroom alone. The first person who recognized me stopped mid-sentence to her companion, turned, and said, with the unmistakable intonation of someone recalibrating everything they know, "Jennifer? Jennifer Cole?" And there, standing by the cash bar, holding a glass of Chardonnay, was Madison Price. I want to be honest about what I felt in that moment because I think dishonesty here would betray everyone who has ever been in a moment like it. I felt something. I won't romanticize it into pure magnanimity or pretend it was nothing. There was a flicker, small, old, tired, of the 15-year-old in the brown shoes. She was still in there. She just wasn't driving anymore. Madison looked older in the way everyone looks older. Not worse, just human in the way that years make you human. She had a realness to her now that the teenager hadn't possessed, and something else, something that took me a moment to name. She looked uncertain. She asked what I'd been up to. I told her, briefly and without theater, that I ran a company. She asked the name, I told her. I watched something move across her face. Recognition, I think, because Groundwork had been featured in 2 business publications that year, and our logo was on the side of a building 3 blocks from where we were standing. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss another one. Wait, she said, that's your company? That's my company, I said. There was silence, not an unkind one, just a long, full pause in which I believe Madison Price did something she perhaps hadn't done often enough in her life. She sat inside an uncomfortable truth. Then she said something I did not expect. She said, I was awful to you. In school. I've thought about it. I'm sorry. And here is where I want to slow down, because this is the part of the story that matters most, more than the revenue numbers and the offices and the dress that cost more than a car. I looked at her, at this woman who had once made a classroom full of people laugh at my shoes, who had made me feel on more mornings than I can count that I was a joke walking down a hallway. And I felt, genuinely, not performatively, something released in my chest that I hadn't realized I was still holding. I told her I appreciated that. I meant it. I did not gloat. I did not deliver a speech. I did not wait for the moment so I could perform it later. Those kinds of victories are hollow. They're for an audience, not for you, and they leave you empty in a way that success never should. We talked for 40 minutes. She was, it turned out, struggling, genuinely, privately struggling, with a business of her own that had stalled. I listened, because I had become someone who listens. And at the end of the conversation, I gave her my card and told her to reach out if she wanted a referral to someone in my network who might help. She called 3 weeks later. I connected her with 2 people. Her business found its footing. She emailed me to say thank you. That is the part of this story I am most proud of. Not the turning of tables, the extending of a hand across them. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. The one who's being laughed at, the one who's quietly building, the one who hasn't been told yet that they're going to be okay. They are. Tell them. Jennifer Cole, and watch out for the surprise twist in Part 4.